Good morning, guys. So we are going to continue with genetics, and that is going to be us talking about heredity. And today's the 28th, right? And we want to remember what heredity is, and that's just basically the information that we're getting from our parents, right? The genetic information. We're, inheriting these traits. So we're going to go back to Gregor Mendel. And Gregor Mendel was an Australian monk that was considered to be the father of modern genetics. He used pea plants to demonstrate how certain characteristics were passed through generations. So what he was looking at were seed shape, seed color, flower color, pod shape, pod color, and stem height. And that is our famous Gregor Mendel. So what he would do is he would cross, right, a tall plant versus a small plant or a short plant and see what the offspring would be and see what traits or characteristics were getting passed on from that combination right here. So again, he observed the pods, were they wrinkled, were they not wrinkled, were the peas wrinkled, were they smooth, were the peas yellow or were the peas green, were the pods green or yellow, and the flower, right, were they white or were they purple. And as well as showing the traits, they do not blend to give offspring that were midway between the parents. So, for example, crossing a tall plant with a short plant did not give him a medium plant, right? When he would cross them, he would get a tall plant crossed with a short plant, and he would get a tall plant. So, where can we find our genes? So, our genes are found in a specific location in a specific chromosome. So when we were talking about DNA, I told you, this specific part of the DNA is going to, or contains the gene for, example, hair color. So what is that going to mean? All genes are found in a specific place in every single chromosome. So everyone has a different combinations of traits. But the genes for those traits are found on the same parts of chromosomes in every single one of them. So your gene for eye color is found in, one specific chromosome. Well, my gene for eye color is found in that same location on my chromosome. So what do our genes do? Well, they determine the traits that we have. So we are more familiar with physical traits. So basically, they determine the way we look. So those are observable characteristics, things that we can see. For example, our hair color, eye color, tongue rolling, earlobes, hairline. So, whether you have an attached earlobe or a free earlobe. I have a free earlobe, but my nephew has an attached earlobe. Widow's peak, right? This little curve right here, this is a widow's peak or no widow's peak. Cleft chin or no cleft chin. I think I have no cleft chin. And I think I don't have a widow's peak. And then, of course, eye color, right? The greens, the browns, the blues, the hazels, right? All of that are examples of our physical traits. So, how many genes do humans have? Well, according to the Human Genome Project, it's estimated that we have between 20,000 to 25,000 genes. Okay, and again, these are chromosomes. And then these genes are found on your chromosome in a specific area. So, half of these chromosomes are coming from mom, and half of these chromosomes are coming from dad. They're not all coming from one single parent. So we have 2 copies of each gene, one from each parent. Each gene has 2 or more variations for what we see. We can inherit the same or different variations. So for example, hair color, brown, black, red, blonde. Tongue rolling, you either can do it or you can't do it. Okay. So here we have an example of a person, rolling his tongue, and then, if you can't roll it. Yeah, I can roll it. So where do we get our genes from? Again, we get it from our parents, but half of them are going to come from mom. So 23 single chromosomes in the egg cell, and half of them are going to come from dad, right? And that's 23 single chromosomes in the sperm cell. Oops, sorry. So here we have meiosis. So when we start off with our, chromosomes, they duplicate, and then they start splitting apart, and then that splits apart even more. So when the egg is fertilized, so let me move forward. So when the egg is fertilized, they're going to form one cell with 46 single chromosomes, or 23 pairs. All humans have started as one cell. Okay. Inheritance. So the characteristics seen in us depend on 2 things. 1, the combination of the genes that we get from our parents, and 2, how those genes interact with each other. So the different variations of genes are called alleles. So there's 2 basic alleles or gene variation. It's a dominant, so the trait or characteristic is always seen if it is present, and that one we normally put it as a capital letter. And then we have our recessive trait, and that is going to be the trait or characteristic that is only seen when the dominant variation is not present, so lowercase letter. So for example, eye color, right? Let's say brown eyes is dominant over blue eyes. Well, eye color would have capital letters and recessive would have lowercase letters. So, example of dominant and recessive alleles. A person can have a widow's peak, which is dominant, or a straight hairline, which is recessive. 2 dominant alleles, a person is going to have a widow's peak. So 2 dominant, 2 capital letters right here. So I'm using W for widow's peak. If a person has 1 dominant and 1 recessive allele, the person will have a widow's peak because we have a dominant allele right here present, and that is overpowering that lowercase recessive allele. And a person that has a straight hairline is going to have 2 recessive alleles. So 2 lowercase W's. There's no capital letter, so in that case, the person is going to have a straight hairline. So these terms are really important. So everything that I've bolded and underlined, it is super, super important you understand and know. So 2 dominant genes, for example, that is going to be, homozygous dominant. Homo meaning the same. Okay, dominant, we said that's capital letters. So 2 dominant genes. So we would have all capital. So WW, FF, KK, PP, SS. They are all uppercase. And these are just examples. Homozygous recessive. Homo again meaning the same. Recessive meaning, that they're not as prominent. And then we have all these lowercase. So lowercase w, lowercase f, k, p, s, s. All lowercase. Heterozygous, meaning that they're different, which means one is going to be dominant and one is going to be recessive. So 1 uppercase letter and 1 lowercase letter. So capital W, lowercase w. Capital F, lowercase f. So what is a phenotype? Well, a pheno starts with PH, is your physical traits, things that we can see. For example, hair color, height, right? Some have in their genes, they're tall. Some are short. We have height difference, different tones of hair color. Of course, we're talking natural hair color. I don't think purple is a natural hair color. And then the next word, so what is a genotype? And a genotype is the alleles in your DNA, right? So that's why I have a DNA strand, the alleles that are found in your DNA right here, right? So for your notes, what you're going to be doing is you're going to make sure you have all of this PowerPoint. Specifically these words right here. So homozygous dominant, make it look pretty, make it look, to catch your eye, because for the rest of the unit, we're going to be referring to, I'm not going to say, two capital letters. I'm going to say homozygous dominant or homozygous recessive or heterozygous. So I can say, this individual is homozygous dominant for blue eyes. So you should be able to, derive from that it's two capital letters, two dominant genes. Okay, so I'm going to move on to our last slide. And these are going to be your assignments. So you have your exit ticket. Your exit ticket's going to be like 2 questions. I'm going to mainly focus on vocabulary. And then your independent practice, which is going to have you practicing that vocabulary. So the homozygous dominant, homozygous recessive, heterozygous, what are genes, what are alleles, all of that information that you need to move on to the next steps. Tomorrow it's Wednesday and it's going to be review day. So what we're going to be doing is I'm going to go over everything really quick, and then I'm going to give you like a 10 question quiz on what we've covered so far for Unit 5. I'm going to be doing that every Wednesday, giving you a quiz, and that quiz will be closing at 5 p.m. Okay, so again, make sure that you have all your notes for Unit 5, because I'm going to be giving you questions from Unit 5 for this review section. Anyone that has any pending assignments, please start or submit them. I've reached out to you guys. I've messaged you. Please be checking your messages. Please be completing your assignments on time. I will start deducting points, if it is being turned late. And right now, I will go out and I'm going to check your independent practice from yesterday. So afternoon, which is when I said it was going to be due, I'm going to check your independent practice, the Amoeba Sisters video and worksheet. And I'm going to message students that have still not submitted the Amoeba Sisters, handout. So please be completing your assignments. That's pretty much it for today, guys. Please work on your independent practice. It is going to be lengthy. I'm not going to make it, 5 questions. It is going to be lengthy because it is really important for you guys to understand the concept and be able to properly use that vocabulary. Have a great afternoon, guys.